Dealing with rejection or being ignored by someone, especially by a woman, can be challenging. When a woman ignores you, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking validation and trying to win her attention. However, Stoicism teaches us that attachment to external outcomes only leads to suffering. In this video, we'll explore how to respond when faced with a situation where a woman ignores you, and how adopting Stoic principles can help you maintain your dignity, self-respect, and emotional stability. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of controlling what is within your power, your thoughts, actions, and reactions, while accepting what is beyond your control, such as how others choose to behave. When a woman ignores you, her actions are often driven by her ego, insecurities, or emotional dynamics. Instead of reacting with desperation or frustration, Stoicism encourages you to detach, stay grounded, and focus on self-improvement. In this video, we'll break down practical Stoic strategies that empower you to navigate this situation with grace, confidence, and inner strength. By understanding ego-driven behavior and maintaining your composure, you'll gain the insight and control needed to move forward without attachment. Whether you're dealing with relationship challenges or simply trying to improve your mindset, these principles will help you respond with clarity and wisdom. Let's dive into how you can reclaim your power when facing a situation where a woman chooses to ignore you. Number 1. Stoic mindset shift. Focus on what you can control. Stoicism teaches us that our happiness and peace of mind are largely determined by how we respond to external circumstances, not by those circumstances themselves. When dealing with a situation where someone, particularly a woman, chooses to ignore you, it's essential to understand that much of what happens is outside of your control. The first principle of Stoicism is recognizing the distinction between what is within your power and what is not. While we may want to influence the behavior or attention of others, the truth is that their actions, whether they ignore us or not, are not fully within our control. Attempting to force someone to act a certain way, particularly by seeking their attention or validation, typically leads to frustration, disappointment, and emotional turmoil. Instead, Stoicism encourages us to focus on what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and reactions. In situations where someone ignores you, your response is entirely within your control. You can choose how to interpret the situation, how much meaning to give it, and how to manage your emotional reaction. You cannot control the fact that someone might be ignoring you, but you can control your response to that fact. For instance, instead of reacting with desperation or anger, you can choose to remain calm, composed, and detached. This shift in mindset allows you to take back your power, as you are no longer dependent on someone else's actions for your sense of worth or emotional stability. The Stoic practice of recognizing what is within our control helps us avoid unnecessary suffering. When you find yourself obsessing over why someone might be ignoring you, it's crucial to step back and ask, what can I actually change here? The answer usually lies in how you handle your thoughts, emotions, and future actions. If you place your focus on things you can't influence, like another person's decisions, you'll likely become trapped in a cycle of frustration and anxiety. However, when you redirect your attention to your own responses, you regain agency over your mental state. For example, instead of trying to win someone's attention or affection, you can prioritize self-improvement and personal growth. A Stoic understands that their worth is not determined by how others perceive them, but by how they perceive themselves. By accepting that you cannot control the external world, including the behavior of others, you free yourself from the constant need for validation and external approval. This doesn't mean you should become indifferent to others, but rather that you should focus on what truly matters, your own character, values, and actions. When you shift your focus to what you can control, you begin to cultivate inner strength. For example, you can decide to respond to the situation with calmness and composure, rather than allowing yourself to be consumed by emotions like frustration or hurt. When someone ignores you, your self-worth does not diminish unless you allow it to. A Stoic recognizes that their self-esteem is not tied to the attention or acknowledgement they receive from others. By understanding this, you can maintain a sense of dignity and self-respect, even when external circumstances are challenging. Instead of chasing validation or attention, you can channel your energy into things that genuinely improve your life, like developing your skills, pursuing your passions, and building inner peace. By doing so, you create a space where you're less reliant on external validation, which ultimately leads to a more empowered and peaceful existence. Moreover, focusing on what you can control allows you to respond with wisdom instead of reacting impulsively. When someone ignores you, it's easy to feel a surge of negative emotions, like rejection or worthlessness. However, a Stoic recognizes that these emotions arise from their own interpretation of the situation. You have the power to reframe those emotions and respond in a way that preserves your mental clarity and well-being. For example, instead of feeling rejected, you can view the situation as an opportunity to strengthen your inner resolve and self-reliance. Stoicism teaches that external events are neutral by nature. What gives them meaning is how we choose to interpret and respond to them. When a woman ignores you, instead of assuming it reflects your value or worth, recognize that her actions are a reflection of her own internal state, not necessarily a commentary on you. When you accept this, you free yourself from the need to control outcomes or seek validation from others. Another key aspect of the Stoic mindset is practicing detachment from the opinions of others. When someone ignores you, it's easy to become consumed by the need to understand their behavior, trying to control their response. However, attachment to outcomes only leads to emotional suffering. A Stoic understands that people act according to their own desires, beliefs, and internal struggles. Your job is not to change their behavior, but to understand that you cannot always influence how others perceive you. The more you attempt to force a specific response, the more you may become entangled in unnecessary suffering. Instead, let go of the need for control and remain focused on what truly matters: your own character, values, and actions. By practicing detachment, you become less affected by the external world and more grounded in your own sense of purpose and meaning. Stoicism also teaches us to accept the possibility of rejection or absence of attention without internalizing it as a reflection of our worth. When someone ignores you, the Stoic approach isn't to fight against that reality, but to acknowledge it and move forward. The key is not to view rejection as a reflection of your value, but as a reflection of the other person's state of mind. By accepting this truth, you free yourself from the desire to seek approval or validation from others. Instead, you shift your focus to building a life that aligns with your values and goals, independent of external validation. When you focus on what is within your control, you gain clarity and peace of mind. Instead of dwelling on someone's silence or indifference, you can use that energy to improve yourself, develop your confidence, and embrace your own worth. By shifting your focus from external validation to internal growth, you reinforce your sense of self, which is grounded in principles that cannot be shaken by external events. In conclusion, Stoicism offers a powerful framework for responding when someone, such as a woman, ignores you. By focusing on what you can control, your actions, thoughts, and reactions, you empower yourself to remain composed and unaffected by external circumstances. Letting go of the need to control others or seek validation from them allows you to cultivate inner strength, dignity, and self-respect. Through this Stoic approach, you gain the clarity and peace necessary to navigate rejection and challenges with grace and resilience. Number 2. Embrace silence and inner strength. Embracing silence and cultivating inner strength is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, especially when dealing with situations where someone, like a woman who ignores you, tests your emotional stability. In moments of silence, there is power. When you remain silent in response to someone's absence of attention or indifference, you demonstrate self-control and detachment from external validation. Silence sends a message of strength and composure, not weakness or desperation. The human tendency is often to react emotionally, seeking explanations or attention, but Stoicism teaches that the best response is often no response at all. Silence forces others to reflect on their own behavior rather than being consumed by yours. When you embrace silence, you create space for introspection and growth. Inner strength doesn't come from shouting or trying to win someone's attention. It comes from within, from knowing that your worth isn't defined by the actions or inactions of others. When someone ignores you, your silence can be a powerful tool to destroy ego and build your own self-esteem. It communicates that you are unshaken by external circumstances and that you are capable of managing your own emotions without being swayed by the whims of others. Stoics understand that silence isn't the absence of action, but rather a form of action in itself. It's a deliberate choice to remain grounded, to control your reactions, and to maintain your dignity regardless of external challenges. When you adopt this approach, you are no longer desperate for attention or approval. Instead, you recognize that your peace of mind is more important than the validation of others. Silence also gives others the chance to reflect on their own actions. People often act impulsively out of insecurity or ego, but when you refuse to engage, it creates space for self-awareness and understanding. The more you withdraw from seeking external validation, the more others are likely to reassess their behavior. In embracing silence, you're not only protecting your own mental health, but also signaling to others that you are secure in your sense of self. Stoicism teaches that true strength comes from within, and that external circumstances, like someone ignoring you, hold no power over your inner peace. By staying silent, you cultivate a sense of control over your emotions. You show that you are not dependent on the attention or approval of others to feel validated or valuable. Instead, your focus is on what matters most: your character, your values, and your inner world. Silence also helps to break the cycle of chasing attention or approval, which can lead to disappointment and insecurity. When you embrace silence, you disrupt the pattern of seeking validation and instead focus on building your own self-worth. By doing so, you create a foundation of confidence that isn't shaken by external events. Stoics understand that people often seek attention due to their own insecurities and desires for validation, but when you remain silent, you avoid being drawn into that same emotional trap. Inner strength is developed through self-awareness, and silence provides an opportunity to reflect and grow. When someone ignores you, you have a choice: to react emotionally or to respond with silence. The latter allows you to maintain your dignity, composure, and self-respect. In moments of silence, you demonstrate that you are in control of your emotions and that your worth isn't dependent on someone else's attention. Instead of chasing after their approval or attention, you focus on what you can control: your own thoughts, actions, and emotional responses. This inward focus allows you to build resilience, confidence, and a deeper understanding of yourself. Silence also fosters inner peace, as it helps you detach from the need to control others or seek their validation. Number 3. Maintain dignity and self-respect. Maintaining dignity and self-respect is essential when dealing with situations where someone, particularly a woman, chooses to ignore you. In Stoicism, dignity and self-respect are rooted in the belief that our worth isn't determined by external circumstances or the actions of others. When someone ignores you, it's natural to feel hurt or frustrated. But Stoicism encourages us to recognize that our value isn't diminished by such external events. Dignity comes from within, and self-respect is built on the foundation of accepting what we can control and letting go of what we cannot. In moments where someone chooses to ignore you, your response should reflect your understanding of this principle. By maintaining dignity, you preserve your self-esteem and avoid falling into the trap of seeking external validation. The key is to focus on what is within your power, your own thoughts, actions, and reactions. Instead of reacting with desperation or seeking attention, you can respond with composure and self-respect. Stoics believe that our self-worth is not dictated by external approval, but rather by our own character, values, and responses. When someone ignores you, recognize that their actions are a reflection of their own mindset, not yours. By refusing to internalize their behavior as a personal slight, you protect your dignity and self-respect. Maintaining self-respect involves understanding that people act according to their own desires, insecurities, and motivations. While it's tempting to take someone's silence personally, doing so only surrenders your emotional well-being to factors beyond your control. Self-respect comes from knowing that your worth isn't tied to the attention or acknowledgement of others. Instead, your value is anchored in how you respond to challenges and obstacles. When you remain silent, composed, and detached, you uphold your dignity. You demonstrate that your self-worth isn't contingent on someone else's approval. Dignity isn't about controlling others' behavior. It's about how you conduct yourself in the face of external circumstances. When someone ignores you, maintaining self-respect means resisting the urge to seek validation or chase after their attention. Instead, you focus on your own growth, purpose, and values. The more you attach your self-worth to the opinions of others, the more vulnerable you become to rejection and disappointment. Stoicism teaches us that maintaining dignity requires acknowledging what is within our control and accepting what isn't. By doing so, you distance yourself from the emotional turmoil that often accompanies situations where others ignore you. Self-respect comes from understanding that your worth isn't tied to external validation, but rather to your own internal sense of identity and values. When someone ignores you, remember that your response defines your character, not their actions. A Stoic maintains dignity by focusing on the aspects of life they can control, such as their thoughts, attitudes, and reactions. They refuse to let external circumstances dictate their sense of self-worth. Instead, they cultivate resilience and confidence, knowing that their value remains intact, regardless of how others may behave. Maintaining dignity also involves setting healthy boundaries. If someone continually ignores you, it's a sign that their actions are not aligned with your values. Instead of trying to force a connection, Stoicism encourages you to recognize when it's time to step back and focus on relationships that are reciprocal and respectful. By doing so, you uphold your self-respect and dignity, refusing to settle for interactions that diminish your worth. The practice of Stoicism also involves accepting that rejection or indifference is a part of life. It's not always about understanding why someone behaves the way they do, but rather about accepting what is beyond your control and focusing on how you respond. When someone ignores you, self-respect means recognizing that you don't need their attention to validate your worth. Your dignity remains intact when you refuse to seek validation from those who ignore you. instead placing your trust in your own character and values. In doing so, you protect yourself from unnecessary emotional suffering and maintain a sense of inner peace. Ultimately, maintaining dignity and self-respect is about prioritizing your own well-being and understanding that you are enough, regardless of external circumstances. When someone chooses to ignore you, your response should reflect the knowledge that your self-worth isn't defined by their behavior, but by your own actions, values, and mindset. By focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, reactions, and growth, you uphold your dignity and self-respect, empowering yourself to move forward with confidence and grace. Number 4. Focus on self-improvement and growth. Focusing on self-improvement and growth is a crucial Stoic practice, especially when dealing with situations where someone, such as a woman who ignores you, creates emotional distress. Stoicism teaches that our primary responsibility is to control our responses and actions, not the behavior of others. In times of rejection or indifference, self-improvement becomes the pathway to building resilience and personal strength. Growth occurs when you shift your focus inward, identifying what aspects of yourself you can refine and develop. Rather than dwelling on someone's silence or ignoring behavior, the Stoic approach encourages turning that attention inward to improve your character, skills, and mindset. Growth isn't about seeking external validation or answers, but about cultivating a deeper understanding of yourself and your purpose. When someone ignores you, self-improvement starts with recognizing that you have the power to control your thoughts and actions, not their behavior. Instead of wasting energy on trying to understand or change someone's actions, focus on how you respond and what steps you can take to become a better version of yourself. Stoics emphasize the importance of adapting and evolving, viewing challenges as opportunities for growth rather than as obstacles. When someone ignores you, take that as a moment to reflect on your own values, beliefs, and the areas in which you can improve. Perhaps there are skills you need to develop, attitudes you need to refine, or habits you need to adopt to become more resilient and self-sufficient. Rather than becoming consumed by external circumstances, focus on cultivating virtues like patience, resilience, and inner strength. Self-improvement means committing to a journey of continuous learning and adaptation. When someone ignores you, it can feel like a rejection, but Stoicism teaches that setbacks are often necessary to achieve progress. Instead of wallowing in disappointment or frustration, shift your focus to how you can better understand yourself and grow from the experience. This is where self-reflection becomes essential. Ask yourself what aspects of your character or life could be enhanced. Are there areas where you can cultivate more wisdom, improve your communication skills, or develop greater emotional control? The more you focus on self-improvement, the less you become dependent on external validation or the approval of others. Stoicism encourages embracing discomfort and challenges as part of the journey toward growth. When someone ignores you, it's not just a sign of their behavior, but also a signal that there is room for you to grow. Self-improvement doesn't mean trying to please others, but rather striving to align yourself with your values and virtues. You become more self-reliant, less attached to external outcomes, and more focused on what lies within your control. The more you invest in yourself, the less you need validation from others, and the stronger your sense of self becomes. Growth is a lifelong pursuit. Stoicism teaches that you are the architect of your own character, and self-improvement is the tool for building resilience, wisdom, and strength. When someone ignores you, rather than feeling defeated, recognize that this is an opportunity to reflect on who you are and who you aspire to become. Ask yourself how you can become more disciplined, more self-aware, and more intentional in your actions. Develop habits that contribute to your growth. Reading, practicing gratitude, maintaining a journal, or engaging in activities that enhance your mental and emotional well-being. The more you focus on self-improvement, the less you become consumed by the behavior of others. Stoicism reminds us that our growth isn't about controlling others, but about improving ourselves. When someone ignores you, this moment can be a catalyst for personal transformation. Instead of chasing after attention or validation, focus on how you can deepen your understanding of your own purpose and values. Growth requires patience and resilience. Stoicism teaches that setbacks are not failures, but opportunities to build strength and character. When someone ignores you, it's essential to remember that self-improvement isn't a reaction to their behavior, but a commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. Set goals, take small, consistent steps, and recognize that growth is a journey, not a destination. Focus on improving your mental clarity, emotional stability, and understanding of what truly matters. Self-improvement isn't about perfection, but about progress. The more you cultivate this mindset, the less dependent you become on the opinions or actions of others. Instead of fixating on why someone might ignore you, invest your energy in becoming someone who is secure, self-reliant, and capable of navigating life's challenges with grace and resilience. Growth happens in silence and solitude, away from the noise of external validation. When you focus on self-improvement, you become more grounded, confident, and resilient, no longer swayed by the behavior of others. In Stoicism, growth isn't a luxury, but a necessity, and in those moments when someone ignores you, it becomes the key to maintaining your peace and sense of self-worth. In Stoicism, we are reminded that what is in our power is our judgment, our actions, and our inner response. When someone ignores you, the real challenge lies in letting go of the need for their attention or approval. By doing so, you shift your focus from external validation to internal strength. Acceptance allows you to see things as they are, without the weight of unrealistic expectations, and to find peace in that clarity. The key to letting go is understanding that your peace doesn't come from controlling the behavior of others, but from cultivating a mindset that focuses on what you can control, your thoughts, reactions, and efforts toward self-improvement. When you stop expecting others to behave in ways that suit your desires, you create space for growth, resilience, and emotional clarity. Acceptance is not passive resignation, but a proactive act of reclaiming control over your inner world. Letting go of expectations allows you to focus on what matters most: your values, your character, and your response to life's challenges. In Stoicism, acceptance is a form of freedom, a liberation from the mental and emotional burdens caused by our attachments to things outside our control. When you accept that others may act in ways that you cannot predict or change, you let go of the need to impose your expectations upon them. This is not only liberating, but empowering. You gain the clarity to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. And from that foundation, you can respond with wisdom and strength. Acceptance requires humility, acknowledging that the world doesn't conform to our desires and that trying to force outcomes will only lead to suffering. When someone ignores you, recognize that their actions reflect their own thoughts and circumstances, not yours. By releasing your expectations, you allow yourself to move forward without being weighed down by the need for external validation or approval. The path to peace is found in accepting what is and letting go of the need to control outcomes that are beyond your reach. Letting go of expectations also allows you to redirect your energy toward more productive and meaningful pursuits. Rather than fixating on why someone ignored you or seeking ways to gain their attention, you can invest that energy into improving yourself, setting meaningful goals, and focusing on what truly matters to you. Stoicism teaches that the more we focus on our own character and virtues, the less we are distracted by external outcomes that hold no power over our peace of mind. When you let go of expectations, you free yourself to grow, to seek wisdom, and to embrace the present moment without the constant pull of desire and attachment. In letting go, you realize that peace comes not from trying to control others, but from mastering your own responses and maintaining clarity about what is truly within your power. Number 5. Acceptance and letting go of expectations. Acceptance and letting go of expectations are fundamental Stoic principles that help foster peace of mind, especially in situations where someone's actions, such as ignoring you, create emotional turmoil. The Stoic approach teaches us that external events, like others ignoring us, are beyond our control, and the more we try to cling to expectations, the more we suffer. Acceptance means acknowledging what is, without resistance or the desire to change what cannot be controlled. When someone ignores you, the first step is to accept the reality of the situation rather than trying to force a response or explanation. Expectations often arise from a desire for things to unfold in a specific way, such as seeking attention, validation, or acknowledgement. However, Stoicism reminds us that our suffering is often caused by these attachments to expectations. When you let go of the need for others to behave according to your desires, you free yourself from the emotional burden of disappointment. Expectations create a gap between what we want and what reality offers, leading to frustration and suffering. The Stoic practice of acceptance allows you to close that gap by embracing what is, instead of clinging to how things should be. When someone ignores you, your peace isn't found in trying to control their behavior or figure out why they acted the way they did. True acceptance lies in understanding that people's actions are influenced by their own thoughts, feelings, and circumstances, none of which are within your control. By releasing your expectations, you stop chasing after what you think you need from others and begin focusing on what you can control: your own response, thoughts, and actions. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean resigning yourself to passivity or indifference. Rather, it means choosing to redirect your focus from external outcomes to your own inner peace. When you hold tightly to expectations, you give away your power, placing it in the hands of others. Acceptance involves recognizing that trying to force someone to act a certain way will only lead to frustration. Instead, you can choose to focus on what you can change: your own reactions, attitudes, and understanding of the situation. By accepting what you cannot control, you create space for inner peace and self-respect. Letting go of expectations also helps you break free from the cycle of disappointment and resentment. When someone ignores you, it's easy to feel rejected, hurt, or frustrated. However, Stoicism teaches that these feelings arise from the attachment to outcomes and the desire to have things unfold according to your expectations. The more you fixate on these unmet expectations, the more you suffer. Acceptance allows you to acknowledge the situation as it is, rather than as you wish it to be. By accepting what is, you free yourself from the grip of emotional reactions and allow yourself to move forward with clarity and peace. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean you stop caring or hoping for better outcomes. Rather, it means understanding that you cannot control the actions of others and that expecting them to meet your desires will often lead to disappointment. Number 6. Understand ego and her actions. Understanding ego and how it shapes a person's actions is a crucial aspect of Stoicism, especially when dealing with situations like someone ignoring you. The ego, in Stoic philosophy, refers to the part of ourselves that seeks external validation, power, and control over others. It thrives on the desire for recognition, attention, and approval, often leading to emotional responses that disrupt our peace of mind. When someone ignores you, it's important to recognize how the ego may be influencing both their actions and your own reactions. The ego often operates from a place of insecurity and fear. People who rely heavily on their ego tend to seek validation from external sources because they derive their self-worth from how others perceive them. When someone ignores you, it's often not about you at all, but rather about their own internal struggles with their sense of self. The ego seeks dominance and control, leading individuals to prioritize their own desires over understanding others. In this context, the person who chooses to ignore you may be acting from a place of insecurity or pride, believing that by doing so, they maintain a sense of power or control. Understanding ego helps to detach yourself from taking such actions personally. The Stoic approach encourages examining the underlying reasons behind people's behavior rather than reacting impulsively. When someone ignores you, the ego may be at play, causing them to believe they need to assert themselves by withdrawing attention or imposing silence. However, this behavior often stems from a desire to protect their own fragile self-image or avoid vulnerability. The ego thrives on maintaining a sense of superiority or control, and ignoring someone may be an attempt to exert that control. Recognizing this helps you detach from the emotional response that often follows such actions. Instead of reacting with anger, frustration, or hurt, you can respond with understanding and calm. Stoicism teaches that the ego is not something we need to suppress, but rather something we must observe and understand. When someone ignores you, they might be acting from a position of their own ego-driven desire for control or superiority. Instead of seeing their behavior as a reflection of your worth, consider that their actions are more about their internal struggles than your own value. Understanding ego allows you to see through these actions and respond with greater clarity and wisdom. Rather than taking their silence or indifference as a personal slight, recognize that it is their ego, not you, driving their behavior. When we become attached to our own egos, we are prone to emotional turmoil when others don't meet our expectations. Stoicism teaches that letting go of ego leads to greater peace. By understanding the role of the ego in shaping people's actions, you can avoid unnecessary suffering. When someone ignores you, the ego may be prompting them to act from a place of pride or insecurity. However, your own ego also has a role in how you perceive their actions. The Stoic practice encourages self-awareness, helping you recognize how your ego may be influencing your reactions. By observing and understanding your own ego, you can detach from the desire for control and external validation. This detachment allows you to respond to situations with equanimity rather than frustration. When you free yourself from the grip of the ego, you no longer feel the need to control or understand the behavior of others. Instead, you focus on what you can control, your own thoughts, actions, and responses. The ego thrives on attention and validation, and when someone ignores you, it may trigger a reaction rooted in insecurity or the desire for acknowledgement. However, the Stoic approach teaches that self-worth doesn't come from external validation, but from within. By understanding the ego, you can choose to let go of the need for approval or recognition, finding peace in your own sense of self rather than seeking validation from others. The ego often seeks attention and control, but true self-respect comes from knowing that your worth is not dependent on others' approval. When someone ignores you, their ego might be seeking to maintain some sense of control, but Stoicism reminds us that we are not victims of their actions. Instead, we are in control of how we respond. Understanding this distinction helps you maintain emotional resilience and avoid attaching your self-worth to the actions or inactions of others. The Stoic practice encourages us to act with virtue, understanding, and self-awareness, rather than letting the ego dictate our reactions. When you are aware of the role ego plays in shaping behavior, you can observe others' actions without becoming consumed by them. Understanding ego helps you remain grounded and focused on what is truly within your control, the development of your own character and response. Instead of chasing after others for validation or attention, you can focus on cultivating internal strength and peace. This self-awareness allows you to rise above the need for external approval, maintaining your dignity and self-respect. In moments when someone ignores you, understanding the role of the ego reminds you that their behavior is often more about their own internal struggles than your worth. By letting go of the ego, you allow yourself to respond with wisdom and clarity, rather than reacting impulsively from a place of hurt or frustration. Number 7. Redefine your value independently. Redefining your value independently is a fundamental practice in Stoicism, especially when faced with situations where someone, such as a woman ignoring you, makes you question your worth. In Stoic philosophy, true value is not defined by external circumstances or the opinions of others, but by your own character, virtues, and actions. When someone ignores you, it's easy to feel rejected, as though your worth is tied to their approval or attention. However, Stoicism encourages you to detach from this external validation and instead focus on your own sense of self-worth, grounded in your own values and virtues. To redefine your value independently, you must shift your focus from what others think or how they behave to who you are and who you aspire to become. Your value is not contingent on someone else's attention or approval. It doesn't diminish or increase based on how others treat you. Instead, your worth is intrinsic, defined by your own character, choices, and actions. When someone ignores you, remind yourself that your value is not determined by their behavior, but by the way you respond to life's challenges. Reclaiming your sense of value means understanding that external events, including someone's indifference or silence, cannot take away what you inherently possess. Your worth is shaped by your virtues, patience, resilience, self-control, and wisdom, rather than by the reactions of others. Stoicism teaches that it is our duty to act with virtue, regardless of external circumstances, and to cultivate a sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on external approval. When someone ignores you, they are acting from their own perspective, driven by their thoughts and emotions, not yours. By focusing on your own character and growth, you realize that their actions do not diminish your value unless you allow them to. Your value is not tied to whether someone acknowledges or validates you. It's tied to how you conduct yourself, how you respond to adversity, and how you strive to live in accordance with your principles. Redefining your value independently requires a shift in mindset, choosing to see yourself through the lens of your virtues rather than the judgments of others. When someone ignores you, instead of letting it shake your confidence or self-worth, see it as an opportunity to deepen your understanding of your own strengths. Self-worth isn't something that can be taken away by someone's silence or rejection. It is something you build and cultivate through your own actions and choices. In times of rejection or indifference, it becomes clear that the only person who can define your value is you. Stoicism encourages us to focus on what is within our control, our thoughts, attitudes, and responses, and to let go of what is outside of our power. When someone ignores you, remind yourself that your worth isn't diminished by their behavior, but by how you choose to react to it. Your value comes from within, your character, your perseverance, and your commitment to growth. When you shift your attention inward, you realize that external validation is unnecessary for you to feel secure in your sense of self. Redefining your value independently means letting go of the need to seek approval or attention from others. It's about understanding that your worth is not determined by how others treat you or what they think of you. Rather, your value is rooted in your own integrity, your commitment to your principles, and your relentless pursuit of self-improvement. When someone ignores you, instead of viewing it as a rejection of your worth, view it as an opportunity to focus on your own growth. Take this as a chance to build resilience and confidence in who you are. Separate from the opinions or actions of others. Your self-worth isn't measured by the attention you receive from others, but by how you remain steadfast in your values and virtues, regardless of external circumstances. Redefining your value independently requires self-awareness, acknowledging that you are the only one who holds the key to your self-worth. When you rely on others for validation, you give away your power, allowing external circumstances to dictate your sense of value. Stoicism encourages us to take responsibility for our own sense of self-worth by focusing on what we can control: our character, actions, and thoughts. The more you rely on others for validation, the more you risk losing your peace when that validation is absent. Instead, Stoicism teaches us to build a foundation of self-worth that is rooted in our virtues, in the way we respond to adversity, and in the way we strive to live according to our principles. When someone ignores you, use that moment to reflect on your own character and values. Understand that their behavior doesn't diminish your worth unless you allow it to. Your value is not tied to their attention or approval. It's tied to your actions and the choices you make each day. Redefining your value independently means letting go of the need to seek validation from others and instead turning inward to cultivate strength, wisdom, and self-reliance. In doing so, you create a sense of self-worth that is untethered from the whims of others, allowing you to move forward with confidence and clarity. Number 8. Lead by example, confidence and self-control. Leading by example through confidence and self-control is a key Stoic principle that fosters respect and influence, particularly in situations where someone may ignore you. Confidence in Stoicism is not about arrogance or seeking validation, but rather a grounded belief in your own character and virtues. Self-control is the ability to remain steady and composed in the face of external circumstances, including rejection or indifference. When someone ignores you, leading by example involves responding with confidence and self-control, rather than reacting impulsively or with emotional turmoil. Confidence, from a Stoic perspective, is not derived from external validation or the approval of others, but from an understanding of your own worth and character. Leading by example means demonstrating that you are undeterred by external events and that your value remains intact, regardless of how others may treat you. When someone ignores you, your reaction, whether rooted in confidence or insecurity, sends a message to those around you about how you perceive yourself. Stoicism teaches that your actions should reflect a calm, steady demeanor, one that shows you are not defined by the approval or attention of others. Instead of seeking validation or allowing the behavior of others to affect your peace of mind, confidence arises from a deep understanding that your worth is independent of external circumstances. Self-control is the key to demonstrating this confidence. When someone ignores you, it is natural to feel frustrated, hurt, or rejected. However, Stoicism encourages you to respond with self-control, which involves recognizing that your emotional reactions are within your power. Leading by example means choosing to remain composed, grounded, and calm, regardless of how others behave. Self-control helps you avoid impulsive reactions that could diminish your dignity and self-respect. Instead, you act with intentionality, guided by reason rather than emotion. In leading by example, you show others that your confidence is not shaken by adversity or the actions of others. Self-control enables you to maintain your composure, even when faced with moments of rejection or indifference. When someone ignores you, leading by example means staying true to your values, responding thoughtfully rather than emotionally, and demonstrating that your self-worth isn't tied to the attention or approval of others. Confidence and self-control work together to ensure that your actions reflect the best version of yourself, regardless of external circumstances. By embracing these qualities, you inspire others to do the same. Stoicism teaches that the greatest leaders are those who lead through their own example, showing strength and resilience even when faced with adversity. When someone ignores you, rather than reacting with anger or seeking attention, demonstrate confidence by staying true to your principles. Let your actions reflect calmness and self-assurance, showing that you are not dependent on external validation to define your worth. Leading by example means being steady and composed, even in difficult moments, and that self-control allows you to respond with clarity and wisdom rather than impulsive emotions. Confidence, rooted in virtue, allows you to maintain dignity and respect, regardless of how others behave. By showing others that you are undeterred by their actions, you inspire them to develop the same qualities. Stoicism teaches that external events are beyond our control, but our response to them is entirely within our power. When someone ignores you, leading by example requires that you remain composed and self-assured, demonstrating that your sense of self-worth isn't shaken by their behavior. Self-control ensures that your actions are guided by reason rather than impulsivity, allowing you to respond with integrity and dignity. Confidence and self-control are not traits that others give you, but qualities that you cultivate within yourself. Leading by example means showing others that your value remains intact, regardless of whether you receive attention or validation from others. When someone ignores you, demonstrate self-control by focusing on what you can control, the way you respond, the way you think, and the way you act. Confidence, cultivated through virtue, empowers you to rise above external circumstances, showing others that your worth isn't diminished by rejection or indifference. In leading by example, you influence those around you by living in accordance with your principles, showing that self-control and confidence go hand in hand to create a life of strength and tranquility. Number 9. Understand the power of ignorance, her ego, in attraction. Understanding the power of ignorance, particularly in relation to her ego, is crucial when it comes to attraction and interactions with others. In Stoicism, ignorance refers not just to a lack of knowledge, but to a state of being blind to one's own ego-driven desires and reactions. When it comes to attraction, especially from a woman's perspective, the ego often plays a dominant role in how she interacts and responds to others. The ego, as Stoic philosophy teaches, seeks control, validation, and dominance. When a woman ignores you, her ego may be at work, trying to assert itself and protect itself from vulnerability or the potential loss of power. Ignorance of one's ego often leads people to believe that they need to maintain control or act in ways that reinforce their self-image, even at the expense of genuine connection. In the context of attraction, a woman's ego may cause her to withdraw attention or adopt a form of ignorance as a strategy to maintain distance or self-sufficiency. By ignoring someone, she might believe that by doing so, she's demonstrating independence or maintaining some level of control. However, what's often overlooked is that this behavior stems from her own insecurity or desire to protect her ego. From a Stoic standpoint, understanding this ego-driven behavior allows you to detach from the need to control or seek validation from others. When you recognize that a woman's actions, such as ignoring you, might be motivated by her ego rather than genuine indifference or disinterest, you can choose to respond with equanimity rather than frustration. The Stoic practice of self-awareness helps you see beyond the immediate surface of her behavior, recognizing that her actions are often reflections of her own internal struggles rather than direct indications of your worth. When a woman ignores you, it's not necessarily a rejection of you, but rather a reflection of her ego, trying to maintain some level of control or self-esteem. By understanding this, you can avoid attaching your self-worth to her behavior. Stoicism encourages you to focus on what is within your control, your thoughts, actions, and responses, rather than trying to change the behavior of others. Recognizing the power of ignorance in this context helps you to maintain your dignity and confidence, regardless of how someone responds to you. When you focus on self-improvement and growth, rather than trying to fix or control others, you enhance your own value and sense of purpose. Ignorance, in this sense, is often a defense mechanism rooted in the ego's need to avoid discomfort or vulnerability. A woman who ignores you might be acting from a place of fear or uncertainty, not necessarily from a position of disinterest. Her ego may be preventing her from engaging openly, as she believes that by withdrawing, she is preserving some sense of power or self-sufficiency. However, Stoicism teaches that this kind of ego-driven behavior is often misguided, and that true self-confidence and strength come from understanding and accepting our own limitations rather than attempting to dominate or control others. When you recognize the role of ignorance in this dynamic, you can respond with wisdom and composure, understanding that her actions are driven more by her own internal conflicts than by a genuine lack of interest. The Stoic approach encourages us to focus on what we can control, the way we respond, the way we think, and the way we act, rather than on the behavior of others. When a woman ignores you, understanding the power of her ego helps you detach from the emotional reactions that often arise in such situations. Instead of viewing her behavior as a personal slight, recognize that her ego may be guiding her actions in ways that are ultimately self-protective and ego-driven. By understanding this, you cultivate a sense of self-worth that is not dependent on the attention or validation of others. Stoicism teaches us to accept what is beyond our control and to focus on what lies within our power. When someone's ego causes them to ignore you, their behavior becomes a reflection of their own struggles with self-esteem and control. Recognizing this helps you respond with clarity and composure, maintaining your self-respect and dignity. Instead of being consumed by their actions, focus on your own growth and development. By understanding the power of ignorance and her ego, you can navigate interactions with greater wisdom, ensuring that you are not swayed by others' behavior, but remain grounded in your own virtues. Number 10. Disengage emotionally. Stay patient and let time work for you. Disengaging emotionally, staying patient, and allowing time to work in your favor is a key Stoic approach, especially when faced with situations where someone, such as a woman ignoring you, triggers strong emotional reactions. Stoicism emphasizes that our emotions often arise from external events that are beyond our control, and the more we react emotionally, the more we give away our peace of mind. Instead of reacting impulsively, Stoicism teaches us to observe our emotions without being consumed by them, recognizing that they are transient and not reflective of our true selves. When someone ignores you, it's natural to feel frustration, rejection, or disappointment. However, Stoicism encourages disengaging emotionally by recognizing that these feelings are often the product of attachment to external validation or the desire for control over the situation. By letting go of the need to control how others act, particularly through emotional reactions, you create space to remain calm and composed. Patience is a critical virtue in Stoicism, particularly when dealing with situations where time appears to be working against you. When someone ignores you, patience allows you to resist the impulse to force a reaction or seek validation. Instead, you trust that time will reveal the truth of the situation without forcing any immediate outcome. Stoicism teaches that external events, including the behavior of others, unfold according to their own natural course. Your role is not to alter or control these events, but to respond with clarity and wisdom. By remaining patient, you avoid the temptation to react impulsively or with frustration, and instead, cultivate the discipline to accept things as they are. Time, from a Stoic perspective, serves as a tool to reveal the underlying truths of any situation. When someone ignores you, you might feel tempted to seek their attention or force a response, but Stoicism teaches that this is often futile. Instead, by disengaging emotionally and remaining patient, you allow the situation to unfold naturally. You trust that things will settle in their own time and that your emotional responses, when left unchecked, will subside as you refocus on what is within your control. Time has a way of revealing the intentions and character of those involved. When someone ignores you, their actions often speak louder than words, and the passage of time gives you the opportunity to observe their behavior without the need to react. Stoicism encourages you to view these moments as an opportunity to cultivate patience and resilience. The more you let go of the need for immediate answers or reactions, the more you free yourself from the emotional turmoil that typically accompanies situations of rejection or indifference. By disengaging emotionally, you create space to remain grounded and clear-headed. Patience allows you to trust in the natural unfolding of events rather than trying to control the outcome. Stoicism teaches that our desire to control outcomes often leads to unnecessary suffering. When someone ignores you, patience helps you accept that the situation is beyond your control and that reacting impulsively only exacerbates your distress. Time will often reveal whether the person's actions were driven by genuine intent or by their own ego and insecurities. By remaining patient and disengaging from emotional reactions, you create an environment where clarity can emerge. Stoicism also teaches that emotional responses can cloud our judgment and distort our perception of the situation. When you disengage emotionally, you prevent these distortions from taking root. Staying patient allows you to maintain self-awareness, ensuring that you don't react out of frustration or anxiety, but instead act with intentionality and wisdom. Patience gives you the time to reflect, reassess, and respond with greater composure. Rather than forcing outcomes, you allow the situation to run its course, knowing that your actions will speak louder than any reaction. In the face of someone ignoring you, time serves as a great equalizer, allowing situations to resolve in ways that are beyond your control. By disengaging emotionally and focusing on patience, you empower yourself to act with grace and dignity. Stoicism reminds us that it is our responsibility to remain grounded in virtue, regardless of external circumstances. The longer you remain emotionally disengaged, the clearer your thoughts become, allowing you to see situations for what they truly are. Patience enables you to avoid becoming consumed by your emotions, helping you maintain self-control and equanimity. When someone ignores you, trust that time will reveal their true intentions without you needing to force any response or outcome. By embracing this approach, you allow yourself to stay patient and let time work for you rather than against you.